All right, here's the back to 5.1 worksheet. It says use the basic identities to simplify the expression. So this is kind of where we get to have a little bit of enjoyment. It's basically a transformation exercise. Remember, our basic trigs are these guys, the stuff we already know. Okay, you basically, if you know your sine and your, if you know your tangent and cotangent, okay, you should know your reciprocals to sine, cosine, and tangent. All right, but your basic trigs. So if I just I'll do a couple of these to get you rolling, and then I want you guys to finish this off to be done by Friday. Okay. Let's take a look at 14. Okay, so 14. 1 minus cosine squared. So I'm looking at that, and I don't recognize that in my basic trigs. So I got to go to my Pythagorean identities. Okay, and the one we were looking at was 1 minus cosine squared. So if I took this cosine squared, moved it to the other side, it'd be a negative. So 1 minus cosine squared would equal sine squared. So I could take this and rewrite this numerator as just basically sine squared. Put it over sine. Obviously, this sine is going to cancel with one of those. My final answer is sine of theta. Done. Pretty neat. So here's what we're trying to do is recognize patterns from our basic trig identities. If we go to 16, I'll get you started, you finish it. So again, we got all these squares. Anytime you see these squares, you got to think of these three Pythagorean identities. Okay? Cosine plus sine is 1. 1 plus tangent is secant. Cotangent plus 1 is cosecant. So, it's hard to memorize them, but you got a note sheet always at your luxury. Take a look here. Sine and cosine, if we group those together, we got a 1. And then we have a tangent squared plus now a 1. And look at tangent squared is just secant. So this whole thing can just become secant squared over secant. I want you to try that on your own. Explaining it as I did is not the best, but try it using my voiceover. You might have to rewatch this, okay? And then 17 and 18 will get us into, I believe it's our second worksheet for 5.1. So when I see these negative signs in parentheses, I'm going to my odd or even identities. I notice I have a secant. So secant of x is just the positive, and a cosine of negative x is just a cosine. If you look at the directions, we could simplify the expression to either 1 or negative 1. So this is where you have some fun. This has got to come down to 1 or negative 1. So looking at this odd or even, I look at my note sheet and I notice that that just equals secant of x. This one on my note sheet in the odd or even identities is just cosine of x. Remember, secant is 1 over cosine. Okay, obviously this is multiplication because they're written next to each other. Put that over 1 if you want. You can see these cancel out. Your final answer is just 1. Oh, sorry about that. Your final answer is just 1. Okay. All right. That'll hopefully get the ball rolling, and we'll take some questions, and we'll go from there.